So welcome to Iris Gaming's Behind the Screen. I'm your DM, Jill Poisson, and in today's episode we're going to talk about adding a new player mid-adventure. So that I said at the top, today's video we're going to talk about how do you introduce a new player when you're not only in the middle of a campaign, but in the middle of an adventure. This actually came up in a recent game that I've been working on, where I literally got to the house where we were playing, and got informed we have a new player. And so I was like, okay. And so basically, I had to think about the fact that they were in the middle of a dungeon and how we were going to bring them in. Luckily, his concept ended up working very well with how I could loop him in. They were about 40% through the adventure, but it was plausible in how they traveled to the fact that he was just following a little bit behind them, a few hours. And once they ended up underground, their travel slowed down considerably, which allowed him to catch up. So basically, while he got there, we actually did a little bit of working on his character ahead of time. He hadn't played in a really long time, hadn't played 5th edition. So we were like, okay, let's roll his stats. So 2 players rolled his stats, and then we picked the highest grouping out of that to give him a little bit of advantage. We knew that he was starting at level 7, that's where they're all at. And then the person that knows him best figured out what class he would probably like to play, and we started building him from there. They depict his background. Everything was completely randomized, and they picked in the campaign. You get 2 goofy little magic items, so they picked 2 little things for him that they thought he would want. When he got there and we told him what we had created, it wasn't actually far off from what he wanted to play. So it actually kind of worked out. Even the randomization of like his flaws, bonds, and ideals fit within the idea that he was coming with while he was driving to game. So once he got there, we gave him the book so he could pick a couple magic items for his character. He could pick his spells, so forth, and then we started playing because the session before it ended literally at the start of combat. We was late, so doing a whole combat wasn't going to work. And we went through the combat, and I think like 20 minutes before we were actually finished, he had finished his character. So I was like, okay, well, I can bring him in right here. And basically, as soon as combat was over and they started taking their breaths, I went right to him. And I did a quick intro of what's going on in the world and how that's relevant to his character, and why he would have the same employer that the party does, which his background actually facilitated quite well. And then I was like, well, you've been following them. And every now and then you've seen some chaos happening off in the distance. They had lit a couple buildings on fire and maybe some fields. So basically there was signs that he could follow because of the chaos that they had created. And I had him just behind them in the dungeon. So, and I started interaction with that. He was at the bottom of a ladder and started talking to him. I described to him what he saw and went from there. And the best thing was a lot of times when a player dies and they have to make a new character, or a new player joins, is it'll usually be like, you seem like a trustworthy fellow, and they just let them join. But this group actually didn't. They asked him questions like, who was he working for? How long had he known them? What did he do? Like, there was a few moments of real questioning because the environment that they were in was dangerous, and they were looking for somebody who may present themselves in a false fashion. So it was kind of nice to see the group not automatically accept him. But once he was, established as somebody they feel like they can trust, kind of, he jumped in and started working with the group, and the character he made actually filled in a kind of a blind spot that they have in knowledge gathering and abilities. So it actually kind of helped because he got information from a couple of things while they were at this part of the dungeon that the rest of the party wouldn't have got. So that's what you kind of need to do. You need to figure out what the person, you don't have to necessarily be like, I'm going to make the character for you, but figure out what the person created and how their background, what their idea is, and their concept connects the world, because then you can very quickly be like, well, they know this NPC who knows the party, or they saw the party here and overheard something and they're interested in that concept. That's kind of the biggest thing, is just take what the player made and figure out what little threads you can connect, which will allow them to have a more meaningful connection to the party even when they're first meeting. Hopefully the party doesn't immediately either kill them or go, you seem like a trustworthy fellow, how would you like to join our adventures? So that's like I said, that's my advice. Take apart what they did real quick, add some threads, and then let the rest of the chaos continue. So thank you once again. If you like the content, subscribe. Comment below if you have any questions. I'll be looking to do in about a month or so some questions and answer video, so do that. And if you want to test some of our content before Dangerous Donda Fields Tall Tales Daring Do comes out, join our Patreon. We have different levels that give you different access to goodies. So thank you and have a good day.